Jai Shri Mataji,
Hey,
Edward.
Mataji. Hello, how are
Thank
you?
Yes, we're good, thanks. And thank you so much for joining us from Vienna in Austria while we are here in England on what seems to be a very nice and pleasant summer's day. Um, Thank you for joining and sharing with us your absolutely phenomenal times with Shri Mataji. And this is a beautiful photo that seems to be the kind of this near the start of your journey. Could you please talk to us when you got your realization, and what was the meeting with Srimataji like when you first met her? Like, it's so beautiful to see Srimataji holding the flower and you are just sort of with folded hands and greeting her. What was it like?
I mean, this photo came a lot later, but I always had this attitude to Shri Mataji. Um, Somehow I guess I recognized her, even though I had a lot of damage. My first experiences getting realization were just in Canada when it was brand new, Sahaja Yoga. So there was only 7 of us, I think, and not much vibrations yet established. But in fact, my first experience, I just had pain in my back and my Ekadash Rudras were hurting. But somehow I think I just recognized from Mataji. I think I had just enough light in my heart to know finally, after a
Yeah.
decade of seeking and all kinds of terrible things. Um, yeah, and actually my time in Saj Yoga had, you could say in a way, 2 phases. The first was the first 4 years in Vancouver from April 82 until Shri married me in Ganapati Puli, the first time in Ganapati Puli at the end of 85. And then I began a whole new chapter because we were very limited there. And you could say our experience was limited. Shri did visit once when we were, after I got realization. In fact, I saw her first time in India at the beginning of 83. It's my
Oh,
first time seeing her. That was in Bombay. I arrived all alone in the middle of the tour
wow.
with a big heavy suitcase. I'd never traveled before. And all the other Canadian yogis were there, all 4 of them. And but it was an interesting experience because I guess, I just felt that sort of doubtlessness about Sri Mataji. And I arrived there 2 in the morning. And I think there was about 100 yogis in Bombay at that time. So I arrived, all the foreigners were sleeping in this called a marriage house
Mhm.
on 2 levels. And the next day, they said somebody was getting married. And I didn't know that was Meenakshi Pai and her husband, because he had to go back.
Yes.
Yeah, he had to go back to work. So the weddings were going to be in Delhi. So my first time Sri Mataji was at this special ceremony for one couple. In this marriage hall. I was sitting at the back and I could see Shri Mataji sitting at the front in the audience, and I couldn't. But then I had actually there was 2 tours, so I was there just at the end of the first tour, and then we had the whole experience with Delhi that year. There was all these public programs at different locations for different chakras, and there was a Shivaratri 83
Okay.
in the old temple, which was just brand new at the time. And I was just totally new, and we were 7 yogis, so I didn't have the experience of all these numbers. And I have
Yes.
fond memories also of the English um, riding the train from Bombay to Delhi. It was everybody will remember Mio. Mio, he was a Serbian yogi in London, and
Ah,
so we became buddies. He sort of took me under his wing. uh, And the time the Shivaratri, it was amazing because I went back 8 or 9 years later, and the whole area was built up with houses all around, and it was all sort of dirty, and the ashram was different. But I had the memory that it was very big with lots of people, like I
hmm.
don't know, hundreds of people. And then I
Yeah.
went back in there 8 years later, and it was just a tiny room with a balcony on top. And
Yes.
I don't know, we must have been maybe 100 yogis, the foreigners and the Indians, a
Wow.
few yogis of Delhi. And one special thing happened so yeah, I was very new in Sahaja Yoga. And one thing happened at the puja that was special. I was sitting like in front of Shri Mataji with my back against the wall. And I remembered it as being far away. And it was only about, I don't know, about 6 meters away. And the ladies were doing something at her feet. I didn't know what they were doing in the puja. And then she had this white robe on. And then I was sitting there and watching her face, and she looked at the wall above my head, and then she looked into my eyes. And I was like, I had an electric shock,
Wow.
And I thought, oh, I think Sri Mataji has just worked on me. And later it occurred to me, oh my God, this was middle of the Shiva puja. Shiva was looking into
Wow.
me, and
How
I was,
lucky.
I was quite new and naive at the time. Of course, I appreciated everything that was happening, but
Yes. So this is the Shivaratri Puja, Shri Shivaratri Puja in 1983 at Safdarjung Ashram.
yeah, it was there. I mean,
Wow.
this photo is later. This is in my second phase when I lived in Vienna and I was
Yes.
happily married.
Oh,
But
yes.
yeah, the first 4 years was actually difficult because we were a small group, and you could say it was the Sahaja Yoga equivalent of the Wild West, where anything went, and the leader kicked me out twice because I had bad vibrations. So somehow like I say, I think I just knew, Shri Mataji is
Yes.
whatever. Somebody told me in the beginning that she's the mother of Christ, Mother Mary, and I remember going home and telling my mom,
Mm.
Shri Mataji is Mother Mary. I don't think she understood what I was saying,
Yes.
but
Amazing. So, what did you make of it? Like you said, you mentioned it was your first time away traveling abroad, and
yeah.
here you come to India, and your only focal point, obviously, is Shri Mataji, who you recognized in your heart, and it's such an important thing to do so as as Shri Mataji, as Mother Mary, as the probably not the Adishakti at that time. What did you make of it all as a seeker at that point when you weren't really let's say, hadn't deep dived into the yoga, Sahaja Yoga?
Well, actually, the the thing that when I got my realization in the first ashram in Vancouver, I went home, and unfortunately, I'd been doing TM for 8 years.
Hmm.
So, but somehow Sri Mataji put something into my life that was the key the key help for me to
Yes.
find reality was I don't know if you've heard of I Ching. It's an ancient Chinese
Yes.
oracle.
Yes.
So I just started using it a few months before, and so I knew it worked. And the first thing I did when I got home, I just opened the I Ching and I asked about Sri Mataji. It was
Ah,
like the most fantastic thing. So the
yeah.
next morning, I just instead of doing my 20 minutes of TM, I looked at my watch and I put Sri Mataji's black and white picture there and just sat there like that for 20 minutes. And within 2 weeks, I stopped doing all the drugs and everything I'd been doing, and I moved away from everything. So, so yeah, already in the beginning, it was, and something that's I think, interesting for people who did heavy drugs.
Yes.
I used to do LSD sometimes, and sometimes in the trip, you'd go into this paranoia and you'd just be freaking out for hours, and there
Mm.
was no way to get out of that. And shortly after my realization, that one time I did LSD, and I was just, oh my God, I was walking somewhere and this fear started coming, and I just thought of Shri Mataji's face just for a split second, and the fear went away. I thought, oh my God, that is amazing. And so, yeah, I had all these various experiences in the beginning, but actually, the first time I was literally kicked out, I had my own place and I was going to work every day, and I was just, I mean, looking back, because I always felt I was sort of a victim. But looking back now, after all my life experience, I feel like it was the most perfect thing that could have happened to me because I had, because I was really, like Shimadaji said once, it's good in the beginning to be fanatical because you have to hold on, with all your force. So I was just, I didn't talk to anyone at work. I slept on the hard floor I made a big altar that I slept in front of. I did puja by myself every weekend. And basically, I just had Shri Mataji. I had nobody else in the world. It was, and uh, and then yeah, that happened a second time again after I was called back. So literally, I had this experience of just having Shri Mataji and nobody else. And at the end of the second time, when they sort of called me back, the leader, Shri Mataji happened to be in California, and it was suggested maybe I could go down and see her. So this
When
was
was this then? When was it?
this was May '85. So
Okay.
there's videos of the Devi Puja at the end of
Yes.
May '85, and so I ended up. We were all sleeping at Dr. Borliger's house, uh, and Sri Mataji was in one bedroom there, and the men were in the living room, and the ladies were in the bedroom. And I remember one morning I was eating something in the kitchen, and the bedroom door opened, and I mean, she would sit in the evening and talk to us in the living room, but so I immediately put down my food, and it was Sri Adishakti standing in the bedroom, and she
Uh,
turned her head towards the kitchen and she saw me and she went like this. And I was just flabbergasted. So, but anyway, after a few more days, she did programs in San Diego. And she said, let's have because they started a new ashram in San Diego.
yeah.
All these big people that became big leaders and things were just young,
Yes.
freshly married. And I was there in their midst, and she had this living room puja with some people were traveling with her. So I guess we were 25 people. And so the one time in my 43 years in Sahaja Yoga, I was actually washing her foot in puja, like
Wow.
massaging the foot while they were pouring water. And you can see in the video, I took a clip out of me. I was totally in bliss. It was like beyond. I'd gone from 0 to a million in just a few days. And
Amazing.
when I bowed down, I sat up. She said, "Very good." And then I sat up, and she said, "Just keep smiling like that." And I think it had been a long time since I was smiling. And then she used to work on people in the beginning, in the old days. Afterwards, she worked on each person. And part of it is on the recording, but I think the battery of the camera must have died just at the part where she told me the key thing for me was she just said twice, "Don't feel guilty." And that was I expected a huge list of things that I would have to work on. And
Wow.
he said, "Don't feel guilty and just meditate regularly."
So
So
this is Devi Puja 1985
'85, yeah, in San Diego.
in San Diego. Oh, brilliant. That's such a beautiful thing that Shri Adishakti is actually telling you firsthand what to do, and you get to offer to offer Shri Ganesh Puja to her.
I
Wash.
remember during while I was washing her feet, because I'd spent two times, alone, focused only on the protocol and what is good.
Yes.
And so I remembered as I washed her feet that Ganesha is in the heel of the foot.
Yes.
So I kept doing her heel, thinking, "Oh, I hope this pleases Sri Ganesha." I didn't know I was getting totally bathed in in the full blast of it.
Yes. Oh, brilliant. So after this blissful experience and you've had your time out, you're now established, you're happily married and ascending in the spiritual life. Were there any miracles that happened that you'd like to share with us, please, in this duration in the early 80s to late 80s?
Uh, I think basically, looking back, our life was just a series of continuous miracles
Yes.
because we, I don't know how, I guess all the Sahaja Yogis must have made good choices in past lives and got all these punyas, and that's why we're allowed to recognize her and worship her. And but I arrived in Europe in this country with all these full-on yogis, a huge collective. And it was interesting for me because I had this 4 years, the first 4 years, I was being watched all the time. And I was, no wonder, I mean, I already had a bad lethargy, but suddenly I arrived in this collective where nobody was watching you, and I was happily married. And Shri Mataji was arriving for the '86 Guru Puja in Austria. on this beautiful lake setting. So everybody was just preparing for that. There's over, I don't know, a couple hundred yogis, 100 yogis. And my wife was making the puja crown, and I found some little job. I made some little Ganesha badges for everyone, and so yeah, it was just like full speed, from then on. And my wife had been so I was 4 years in Sahaja Yoga. My wife had been 2 years, about 2 years, and suddenly, well, there was four yoginis looking after Shri Mataji in the little rented place she had near the lake for the puja. There was Sabina Hackle, my wife, and two other yoginis, and they were cooking for her and everything. And then afterwards, in Vienna, Shri Mataji said that my wife and her sister should accompany her to Munich. So suddenly they were on the train with Shri Mataji. And yeah, there was public programs in Munich and this Kartikeya Puja, this very famous puja.
Yes.
And so that's sort of where I ran into my wife next time in the, in the puja hall, in the public program in Munich. And so, I mean, because I don't know, I guess because Shri Mataji used the early yogis to do many things, to early work. Somehow my wife turned out to be an artist, and she was still in school at the time. And
How old were you guys then? Remind us, please.
I was just turning 28 when we got married, and she was 26.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I came from Vancouver 6 months later, just in time for this big puja in Austria.
Okay.
And like I say, it was just like a series of miracles because this funny story is Brigitte and her sister just got an inheritance from the grandmother when they after they came to Sahaja Yoga. So you see them on the videos and things in England, train station or at some seminar or something. They just basically went to everything where Shri Mataji was.
Wow.
And that's how my wife could afford to go to India first time for our marriage. So I was there, I arrived, and I came to, then two guys said, we're gonna, in Canada, you can't jump in a car and go somewhere. It's too far, it's thousands of kilometers. But somebody said, two guys in Vienna said, I think it was in July after Guru Puja, they said, we're going to, Shri Mataji bought a house in England, shooting camps, and we're going for the initiation, the first puja, the Bhumi Devi Puja. And my wife heard, and she said, why didn't you go with them? I said, okay. It's, I don't know how many, 14-hour drive or something, 16 hours.
Wow.
And I remember the experience there. There was, the first big gathering in shooting camps. And I don't know, I guess in a way, everybody in England was used to Shri Mataji all the time being around for so many years. So she had gone upstairs, and I think food was being served or something. And I couldn't really get into the chatting and the food. I was standing at the bottom of the stairs going, oh my God, Sri Adishakti's just up the stairs here. Oh my God, I was just standing there. I couldn't get out of this awe,
Yes.
And then the next year, actually, I ended up, Brigitte and I came to work there for several weeks. So she was doing helping with the cornicing, doing the gold on the cornicing, and I was helping John Watkinson tile the bathrooms, the many bathrooms. Wow. And I used that later in life, became a tiler. But yeah, anyway, next time in shooting camps, well, there was an Easter puja, but in '89, I mean, when you talk about miracles, like looking back, we were just full on the whole time with Shri Mataji. So if any time in history, if you can imagine something like that, it's impossible to imagine because it was like twice a month or something. We were seeing Shri Mataji and hearing her say new things. And then whoever went would bring that back to the collective, and just like totally focused. We were living in various ashrams and everybody was just focused. But something happened in '89. Just before that, I had gone to Finland to help start Sahaja Yoga in Finland with another guy. And then in the middle of '89, I went to Turkey for the first time, and me and Akbar helped establish the new people there. And just before that, in our ashram, somebody had moved out, so we had this big bedroom. And before the birthday puja, I set up all these tables and all this paper and paints and crayons and stuff, and everybody was from the collective was invited to make pages for like a huge card for Shri Mataji's birthday. And in the middle of that, I suddenly got overwhelmed with something. Something in me opened. It had to do with the creativity and the collectivity and I don't know what else. And I went to Shri Mataji's picture and I said, Shri Mataji, you know, one of these rare occasions where you just know she's listening.
Yeah.
Normally, I was very nervous around Shri Mataji. And I said, you know, we really need money. You know, we could do so many things for spreading Sahaja Yoga and beauty and you know, sharing your love. And I didn't put these two things together until long, you know, 20 years later. But Shri Mataji, towards the end of the year, saw my wife after the Diwali Puja somewhere and said,
Which
oh,
year?
huh?
Which year?
That was end of 89, Diwali.
1989 Diwali Puja. Okay, yes. Sorry, go on.
And she saw her as she was leaving the puja and said, "Oh, can you phone me?" So Brigitte didn't know. Oh wow, the phone Sri Mataji, and she was working at the time in a 200-year-old porcelain factory, and they didn't have cell phones or anything at the time. So at lunchtime, she went to the porter at the main door and asked to use the phone, and phoned Sri Mataji at her home in London. And Shri Mataji said she had 50 oil paintings for us. She wanted to give us to somehow start a art business or something. And just before that, in August, was the first time Shri Mataji was in Russia. So we actually drove for Brigitte's graduation. Her father bought her a new car. So we went to all the pujas and everything that summer. And then I just saw the video, the interview video of us at Milan Airport in August '89. And I realized we had arrived in Milan for the Bhairava Puja at Lake Como. From there, we were driving to Ganesha Puja in Switzerland. And from there, we drove through the night. There was actually two vehicles, one from Rome. We drove through the night all the way to Helsinki for the first public program there. And then we drove to Leningrad and Moscow.
Wow.
And so, you know, it was like full on the whole time. And then we got home, and then Shri Mataji, Brigitte's sister, was still there in Moscow. And she called Brigitte and said, Shri Mataji said you guys should move to Frankfurt, Germany.
Wow.
So we were, okay, we're moving to Frankfurt. And I immediately got a job there. But Brigitte still had this other job, and I got this new job. And then suddenly this happened with at the Diwali Puja, and Brigitte had to pick me up from Frankfurt, and we drove to shooting camps where Shri Mataji was just packing to move to Pakistan. And
Which year is this, please?
towards the end of '89.
No, okay, end of 1989. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Beginning, I think, yeah, the beginning of November, she was doing all the packing. There was, you know, yogis there helping in shooting camps. And so we had to go up to there was this little room in front of her bedroom where she was unpacking, somebody was unpacking all these paintings she had bought. And she told us that she wanted us to, you know, to help us to create an art business in Vienna. In Vienna, she always said that the Saraswati that was so strong because everything is very ornate. And, you know, Mozart lived there, and it's just like it was like a jewel box. And it was her idea that we could do this art business. And actually, that was the first time that I was ever confident enough to speak to Shri Mataji because normally I was too nervous. And there was one moment came where I didn't realize if she was talking about Vienna or Frankfurt, you know, if we should take the paintings there. So I said, Sri Mataji, should we do it in Vienna or Frankfurt? And she said, Vienna. And later I was so glad that I remembered to ask that, you know, because I would have had no idea where we were supposed to do it.
Great.
So we were sort of on the miracle subject, but yeah, there were so many events. Actually, I'm writing them all down now, finally.
Very good.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know some yogis, they pass away and then they don't really share all these memories. And I don't really have an excuse because I'm a writer. So I,
Yes, amongst the various talents you have, writing is one of them. We used to read. We bought your Edward series.
oh, that okie dokie.
Yeah, okie dokie. Yeah, and read it to Vinensh Devi when they were little.
Oh,
That's
really? Oh,
great.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's very nice, and because you not just writing, I think you write poetry as well. So not just
Yeah,
short
and I do
things.
drawings and
Yeah.
music and carpentry
Yes, yes. I remember you were doing the decks way back for the children to play, that play area.
in Cabela. Yeah.
Yes, and Cabela, yeah.
Actually, I just bought a whole bunch of wood to do some repairs this time when I
Oh,
go. It's a never-ending thing.
it's a work in progress, isn't
Yeah, exactly.
it? Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So tell us about this this magical times with Shimataji. Now, I mean, we just enjoy with the vibrations when you share, and so much joy out of it. I mean, what was it? What must it have been being in her presence for 24/7?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with you mentioned 24/7 because early in 1997, I said to somebody, Sahaja Yoga is getting really big now, and Mataji can't have private audiences anymore. It's just too much. She's constantly traveling and
Yeah.
so many people to meet, important people. And then uh, around June, there used to be always some puja in America, and I used to take the Austrians. There was one yogini working for Austrian Airlines, so she get a group booking. I get all the names, can collect all the money, and then bring them over to my side of the world. And yeah, 97 that happened, and then I came back, and I don't know. I think somebody said they need help in shooting camps. They're doing the next shooting camps, the castle. They're doing the facade. It's a huge job. So I said, okay, I'll go. And then I got there, and Shimataji arrived shortly later from America, and she said that she was sick. I don't know why, from working out America, and she ended up staying there for 5 months in the castle with no traveling, and we were just sleeping 6 meters below her. There
Wow.
was about I don't know, 10 or 12 of us guys working every day, 6 days a week, and after that, I never make any proclamations. Adishakti can do anything.
Yeah.
And I had one nice experience there. I had the idea that it would be nice to. Brigitte at one point brought all our. In those days, you had videos, movies on cassette tapes. She brought our whole collection of movies, and I would set up a movie evening once a week. I'd make a poster, paint a poster, and say, tonight, Star Wars Part One, and popcorn and Coca-Cola will be served. And all the guys, oh, wow, after dinner we'd gather. And then one time Sandeep came downstairs and he said, Shri Mataji is, her sadhana deity is there, and she's looking for if there's anybody has any movies by any chance. I said, oh, I have some movies, and so Brigitte didn't only bring the cool movies for workers, but we had a collection of Audrey Hepburn. So I said, oh, maybe Shri Mataji would like these, and then he took them up, and then about a week later he brought them back, and he said, congratulations, Shri Mataji really appreciated, enjoyed it, and she wants me to bring them back back downstairs. It was a really hard opening, It's just one of these little moments. And another time at that point was Diwali '97. It was a huge construction site, and of course it was very ugly. She was arriving back from Portugal, and I had the idea, why didn't over the bridge there was also scaffolding, and I said, let's get some. Is there any lights or decorate cloth in the castle we can decorate? And then we decorated it all and made a happy Diwali. And then Shrimataji arrived and got out of the car and said, oh, Diwali is here also.
Wow.
The only mistake I made then was I was standing inside the door and I was trying to blow the conch, and it was making this terrible noise, and everybody everybody was sort of standing nervous because I kept trying that, and somebody said, you better stop. And so that was a little bit of humor in that. But yeah, it was amazing period. And we kept having, situations like that, shooting camps and then working on in the castle. Brigitte also a couple of years later was they were redoing Shri Mataji's bedroom. And there's a photo of her doing the gold on the cornicing.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, the shooting camps was just mind-boggling because there was people from all over the world. At the end, we were working night shifts also, like 24 hours, 7 days a week.
So
And
it's kind of a relay of work
yeah,
on with
yeah,
the,
exactly.
yeah,
And I mean, when you look back, it's just you can't even imagine how, like what motivated you to do that because
yeah,
you just got so much joy and bliss from Shri Mataji. You really wouldn't even question doing anything. You just went as often as you could to see her, and then as often as you could to go to India, and then of course go, prepare her house for her. And
yes.
by the end, the vibrations were so strong. There's so many people there, and the when she was arriving, then just before the Guru Puja, 86. Um, they were actually rolling the carpet in front of her bedroom to finish the carpet as she was coming up the stairs.
Talk about last minute.
Yeah. And yeah, it was just, you just go thoughtless thinking about it. And then there was all those pujas there. And I love rewatching those pujas because she's so full of these motherly humor and,
Yes.
that
We'll
she always
provide
has.
the links. We'll provide the links to the pujas you've mentioned
Oh,
for
good.
our
Yeah.
viewers to sort of have that flavor because those were absolutely unparalleled times, wasn't
Yeah. I know. And especially in England, she always had this humor and this motherly quality.
it? Yeah.
And she'd get all the English laughing.
Yeah. We did an interview with called the Golden Builders one, so we'll provide a link for that as well with your interview if that's okay. But
Yeah.
it's just amazing to hear. And I think from what you were telling about the movies that Shrimataji watched, it was then that she said Roman Holiday is one of the good movies,
Yeah,
was it?
exactly. Yeah, she loved that movie. Yeah. And we
Yeah.
just happened to have it, there.
And Star Wars, probably.
Yeah.
There's a list, isn't there? There's a list of movies that Shrimataji likes.
Yeah. Yeah. Somewhere. Yeah. Online.
Yeah. I know there's some queries about, people wondering what they were, sort of thing. So yeah, if it's there available anywhere, we'll provide the link with yours.
I
Um,
was, I was, with Shri Mataji a couple of times when she watched movies.
which ones?
Um, in Vienna, they would get the presidential suite of the really old palace hotels in the old city.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember now. There was one, I think it was called The Elephant Man.
Uh-huh.
It was about somebody who was deformed and had a hard time. I remember not seeing it with her, but hearing about the Matrix.
Yes.
Imagine how people human minds can come up with, grasp that concept of
Yeah.
reality, that it's actually just an illusion. And one thing I referred to recently to somebody, because there's all this happening with artificial intelligence, that
Yes.
when she started watching 2001 Space Odyssey, but I think she got them to stop the movie when HAL, the computer, took over, because she said if it comes to that, then it's really, you know, really bad.
Yes, I remember when we were recording Golden Memories in our Blossom Farm in 2010. Patty Prohl, bless her, she shared the same thing.
Yeah,
And she said, Shamatsji mentioned if the computers, if we allow them, then they'll take over, and that's the end
exactly.
of it.
Yeah.
But this artificial intelligence is another,
It's very, very useful, but no, actually, I read just a few weeks ago that Mataji said that because I recently read all the memory books,
uh-huh,
and I always compare where I was at the time when somebody was with where she was and what was going on, and I forget. No, I went thoughtless. Um,
about artificial intelligence and the journey you've had.
so that vibrations are getting too strong now. I can't even think anymore.
Oh,
No, but the memory books are fantastic because
recollections are amazing, I have to
Yeah, there were
say.
so many things that.
And reading them gives so much joy. I mean, we have most of our collection in Lucknow, but it's just so nice. Even when you read it on social media or somebody's forwarded that info, or you get hold of the book again, and it's like, wow, you kind of you take into another realm, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
you can imagine hundreds of years from now, people will be, wow,
Yes.
this is.
But that's the idea of doing these golden memories, because you and the other Sahaja Yogis who had that real time with Shri Mataji. People in the future might like to know what it was like to be with.
Yeah.
I mean, words, we don't have adequate words to kind of describe, do we? Like,
Mm.
remember when we used to be in her physical presence, the levels of joy were completely different. It was phenomenal. And although the vibrations are so strong even now, there is something which would have completed sort of thing. I don't, do you feel that, or is it just uh,
Yeah,
oneself?
I think unconsciously or subconsciously, the yogis worry that it's going to go off like the other religions because we have memories of that from our past lives. But Shrimataji said that the Param Chaitanya is so established that Sri Sadashiva is pleased and
Yeah.
the world won't be destroyed.
Yeah.
I just listened to a talk where she described everything. There's the creation talk. There's various creation talks and in the book
Yeah.
of Adishakti, but this one I never heard before. She actually goes into detail and explains exactly what happened. And but yeah, at some point she said that this world won't be destroyed. But then it just makes me feel, but how many will be left? Basically, uh, that's the main point. And then you feel that so many yogis just left because they had bad feelings with other people. It was mainly personality conflicts. I think that most people left Sahaja Yoga, left the Sangha. And I mean, I could understand in a way how that could happen, but from my maybe because Shimadachi had me send out early on so that I'd never
Yeah.
let go of the collective, That's
You
another
clung
good.
to it. Clung to Mataji's saris, and that's what we all do, don't we? Otherwise, we wouldn't be anywhere.
Yeah, you need sometimes. And one of the main points that I realized through my difficulties is that because somebody said, well, negativity tries to attack you when you're born and all this because you're a seeker. And
Mm,
I mean, one of the main things, the built-in system is the karmas and the punyas. So you
yeah.
have to go through that. You have to go through whatever you've earned, whatever you've done. But I have the feeling the main thing about all these difficulties is that God has given us complete freedom, so we can do whatever we want, and she can't go in and control us. But there, on the other side of the ego is like the conditioning, is the superego. So she creates events that sort of bring our ego down just by making us beg because we're
Yes.
suffering or having fear or something. It's very valuable, actually, to
Yeah.
to go through things because from my own experience, it brings the ego down, and you're just in the state. Every little drop that you get, you're just grateful for. And the gratitude is the quality of sasvara. So in a way, it's okay, people suffering, it's not very nice, but it's so valuable actually to go through these things just to make you keep you solid, holding on to Sri Mataji.
It's all part of the ascent, isn't it? I mean, one sort of it's like this belief that Shivatri gives us the tests that she knows we can emerge out victorious, hopefully.
Yeah. Actually, I don't even use the word test. I always consider it as exercises because
Exercises, that's a
yeah,
new one.
because I have training programs to keep my body fit because I'm getting
Yes.
older. I'm
Yes.
67 now, so I have to do something regularly. And
Mm.
all the things that happen, I feel like you can see phases because I write these things down, what happened to me, and you can see, aha, I had to go through this, repeat it, and then I got quite good at it. I was at a different level, and then I had to go through something more. And so it's basically just exercises that you get better and better, and you
So is there some exercises that were more useful than the others in Sahaj terms for you?
um again I go thoughtless. Everything is uh I don't know, when I think what Shri Mataji put me through, like right from the beginning, when I think I was just born into this crazy situation of alcoholism and like the most intense scariness, even
Mm.
before the birth and after the birth. And um, I think one of the first thing that comes to mind is you already decided that you want it, at any
Yes.
cost. And she said, well, if you want to get really grounded in it, it's best if you go through difficulty, because that'll make you build up into it. So, and then you probably say, yeah, I'll do anything. And they sort of a little bit regret it maybe, but yeah, so much pain and the pain of fear and always feeling unsafe all the time. But then it makes you hold on to Shri so tightly. I've known, a couple of leaders also that they had terrible childhoods also, and you could feel the insecurity in them, but the dedication was increased through it. So it's not like, yeah, a person that has a perfect smooth life is going to, be
No.
better, somehow better off. But the main thing that I realized, because then at some point, if you carry these damages in you from childhood, at some point you get older and then they come out physically. So then at some point I got sick, and then I was getting sicker, and of course I was feeling desperate. And then in the end, I was, actually, I thought it would just sort of fade away. I would get healed somehow. But it
Mm.
became even more dramatic because at the end of many years, I was rushed to the hospital and I almost died. And I was able
Wow.
to watch this whole thing about, actually, I had fear of death all my life. And then suddenly I got over it because in these 48 hours that I was dying, I thought, oh, it's not so bad, get to go to Shri Mataji. So, you know, and I really felt that because sometimes people feel like God is looking the other way, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm so unsafe. But I felt like, wow, it's full on. Well, here she is with me. I just watch what happens. And of course, I was saved in the end, and it was very dramatic. But so, yeah, I wrote down over these years many revelations, and afterwards, I was still feeling a bit bad about myself, and then Sri Mataji just sent me this thing because actually I'm a writer, I write stories, and
Yeah.
she said, actually it's all a story. She's just creating it for Sri Sadashiva, and he's just there enjoying, and he enjoys every blade of grass, and he enjoys like our conversation now. And so what, am I living such a frivolous life, that I don't, spreading Sahaja Yoga 24/7, or actually, I was so worried about that. Some old yogini, Indian yogini, told me, said, there's different jobs in Sahaja Yoga, Not everybody goes out all the time and raises kundalinis. Some people help Sahaja Yogis, for example, or like my wife, she's doing all this art, these Ganeshas, and they're going all over the world. So at that point, I realized actually it helped because I could see everything in the light of that sort
Mm.
of the great story principle. And
Yes.
it took care of everything because she's directing and producing and doing all and she's just watching how we're coming along, and Sri Sadashiva's there. He enjoys I'm sure every little triumph,
Absolutely.
you
Oh, fantastic way of putting it. Tell us, we're going back again to when Shri Mataji gave you and Brigitte those oil paintings in Russia. What happened from there on? Because you're very artistic, the two of you. And that would be probably, hopefully, be helpful for the yogis and yoginis who are artistic now and in the future. So how did that pan out for you guys?
um, actually, that was in Shooty Camp. She gave us the
Oh,
painting,
sorry. Okay.
and yeah, it was funny. The next day we were staying with Hester and David,
Mm-hmm.
and she phoned Hester and gave a suggestion for Brigitte to paint porcelain doorknobs, like to
Oh,
that detail. She was thinking about what we can do, and yeah, and like I said, about 20 years later, I traced that back, this whole event, to maybe because I talked to her photo and said, she mentioned we need money to spread the love, the beauty, and the art. And but then I realized from another memory story that somebody else at that time he didn't know he was an artist. I don't know if you know Steve Jones. He was just doing some biology or something. And Shri Mataji said, you should become an artist. So his
Wow.
story is amazing. He just, oh, okay.
Hmm.
And then he just applied to all these graphic artists, the big companies, without a portfolio or anything, and said, I'd like an interview. I'm going to be an artist. And eventually he was hired by a company. And
Oh,
and
okay.
so this was just before, this is just in that period. And so I had the feeling, maybe Shimataji was sort of working on this artist, yogi artist thing at the time.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, we took all the paintings back to Vienna and sold them to the yogis in the ashram. We had a we had a painting sale weekend in the ashram, and I wanted to take the money back to Shimataji. That was 1990 Brighton Easter Puja, I think.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "No, you're supposed to sell them to non-yogis." Oh, to give vibrations. Of course, the yogis pounced on it.
Yes.
And then she didn't accept the money. She said she told us to shop in London where she bought them and said we should buy more and then continue. So then for years we had, then we found a location in Vienna, and our baby was born at the same time. So it was like another magical time. And later, Shrimataji told Brigitte that she'd like to visit the shop. And when I saw Shrimataji in Delhi, 92, I think, um, she said, Sir CP just got an export license and they can send us things from India.
Wow.
In fact, I just found that conversation. Oh, I found my diary just a couple of months ago, and a couple of other people were in the room. I think Yogi Mahajan was, they had a short conversation about import export or something.
Would you like to read an excerpt from that diary if it's to hand?
Oh, I don't know where it is right now.
Oh, okay.
But so anyway, that didn't actually happen. And later the shop was closed because we moved to North America. But
Uh-huh.
so she would give us advice. Another
You
time
were
she,
importing Indian paintings from India and selling them in the shop in
well,
Vienna.
we already were. Luckily, Brigitte's sister was married in Delhi
Ah,
to Deepak Mida, and he was. So we had this connection. We were importing semi-precious stones, and and in the 90s there was in the late 80s there was these modern Punjabis, and
yes.
we were selling those.
Punjabis are salwar suits for people who don't know what Punjabis are. Yes,
Yeah, and
we call it salwar suits.
they were modern,
Yeah.
elegant types, and these lacquer boxes. There's all kinds of different things that we were importing. We've got these big crates, full of stuff. And I mean, it wasn't a very good location that we had, so it was more of a hobby in a way. But it was, looking back, it was preparation also because Brigitte became more and more successful with her artworks. And I had another point, Shimadaji said we should exhibit in cities in Europe, like Europe. I think she mentioned Frankfurt and London, which Brigitte eventually did in group exhibitions.
Mm.
And so, I mean, it's been nice also because it's funny. I just finished reading Duilio's book, and he explains full on. He was with Shrimataji like every day for
Wow.
years, and he
It'd be
showed
nice
drawing.
to interview him, but I have no contact for him. So,
Yeah, I can
anyone
I can
listening,
mention too. Yeah.
please do. Please do.
Um, Already in 1999, Shrimataji did drawings for a hotel in the Kabbalah camp and a
Wow.
restaurant, to serve also non-yogis, and an area with stands for selling handicrafts and artworks. And
Wow. Near the hangar.
well, near the kitchen, yeah, near the Molino.
Yes.
Like
Wow.
actually, the Molino would have become a hotel, which could be accessed from the street level. And
Oh,
then the area where they serve the food would have been a big, area for selling handmade things.
wow.
So I think she maybe didn't mention because she would do drawings and things like that and not follow up on it. So maybe because what happened in 2007, the foundation decided that based on Shrimataji's early wish, they would implement this idea. And then all these stands started, where people could sell things. And so that was lucky. That was when we started selling in Cabela, the Ganeshas and the Hanumas. So it's
Yeah.
been 18 years now that we've had a stand there.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
and it's a really interesting experience because I get to stand there, for several days and meet yogis from all over the world. in a different atmosphere because there's a different deity being worshipped each time.
Yeah.
And I've basically been at all the summer pujas for 18 years there. And you get to see all the, and another thing that was interesting for me is because, like I say, I'm used to all these artworks and the vibrations, but to see people's faces, when they come and see all these handmade things that
Yes.
are radiating something, and people would just go still, or they'd come back again and again and then make some comment. So yeah, it's very valuable for yogi artists to know that what they're doing has vibrations. And
Yeah.
sometimes we forget it. Like I do a lot of things with woodwork and stuff, and I don't know if it's some block in my ego or something. I never remember that I'm putting vibrations into it. Later maybe somebody might mention, oh, this has good vibrations, but it's important that yogi artists realize that whatever's coming out of their hands is carrying vibrations,
Yeah.
and might be around for hundreds of years that people will be feeling
Mm.
vibrations from them, from this period. So yeah, it's so lucky.
Mataji has, yes, she has given us that blessing to be the saints if we want to be, and being her children and her instruments. Yes, you're right. We should be aware of the uh, impact because of Shri Mataji through us. That's very important. Um, so you've talked about the pujas and Havan, and over the course of time, how do you find them? Like when you came first to Sahaja Yoga, you didn't have a kind of a background or a lot of information about deities, chakras, and things. How did you find it then? And through these 43 years, how do you find it now?
Um, a few months after I came to Sahaja Yoga, very few people know this, but the first yogis of Canada did a historic trip. They drove over 5,000 kilometers across the continent of North America to visit Shri Mataji and when she came to New York.
Wow.
And then they drove all the way back. And at that point, the leader said to me, hey, Ed, you want to caretake the ashram while we're gone? It was an old house in Vancouver. And I said, sure, why not? So I was living at my mom's in the suburbs at the time. And so I was alone in the ashram the whole weekend. I found all those Amar Chitra comic books. So I read them all. So I found out all about the deities.
What a treat.
But we were so lucky in the beginning. Most people don't realize that Felicity Payment is basically the grandmother of Sahaja Yoga Canada, because they were married immediately, and she came over, and she had had years with Shri Mataji in London. Plus, she had the connections. She would phone to friends, or the tapes would be sent over. So we got all our information through Felicity, basically. And in the ashram, we would do every morning at 5 or 6 in the morning, a 2.5 hour puja with 1,000 names and all the elements.
Every day.
Yeah, every day. And then when Shri Mataji mentioned, I guess that was also in 82. Okay, every Thursday the yogis should stay up all night for their Guru Tattva. So we
Wow.
did, oh, okay, then we do that also. Whatever
Never.
was coming over from London, we would.
Oh,
And so yeah, at my mom's place when I was first started, I just had this little black and white photo, and I would just put it out. And then they gave me a laminated photo of Shri Mataji's feet and said I should keep it under my pillow. It'll be good for my vibrations.
oh,
So I would, at my mom's place, I would get up in the morning and I'd put the picture there and I'd pour some water on it and read her 108 names, which is every time I read them, this brings back memories from 43 years ago, right in the beginning. So actually, I had an experience in the beginning when I first got sick about 12 years ago. It was very valuable. Again, it was a traumatic experience that made a breakthrough somehow, because I guess you get into a comfort zone or something and you need still deep things to work out. Something happened that something I'd worked on and put my whole soul into, very creative. An old yogi said, no, that's very bad, inauspicious. And I just decided in that moment, oh my God, I didn't know, and I threw it away. It was like ripping. I didn't realize at the time it's like ripping my heart out. So I got sick immediately. or I think my immune system went down. But then a couple of weeks later, I thought, why don't we just check vibrations? Because normally my wife and I check,
Mm.
we get little pieces of paper and fold them in with yes or no. And luckily, she's really good at feeling her Kundalini, if it's coming or not coming. So we checked about it, and I thought, I was really worried. And then it said, no, no, I should continue with it exactly the way it is. It's perfectly fine. I had this, I'd been in Sahaja Yoga for, 35 years or something. And I suddenly had a sort of breakthrough where because I had been writing about deities, and they said, don't write about deities, that's really bad. And the main one was anyway, Hanuman, who was sort of a jolly angel who's sort of easy to talk about and feel close to. But so I suddenly, it was like an overwhelming feeling because I thought Sri Hanuman, that means Sri Hanuman liked what I was talking about him, and maybe he was even with me and enjoying it. And I couldn't believe that one of these divine beings would actually enjoy me and pay attention to me. And I was so overwhelmed, I burst out crying and laughing. I couldn't stop.
Bit
And
of joy and bliss together.
yeah, I was just like sobbing,
Unbelievable.
and I felt so much joy. And that was sort of a breakthrough where
Mm.
I had this connection to the deities where just felt, I guess because of the guilt in me, I felt they're too big. You can never get close to them. And suddenly I felt, they have so much affection for us also. I mean, I guess if Shri Mataji hadn't accepted us, then there'd be no protocol for us to even move close. But as long as we're her children and we love her and are always admiring her, and they just enjoy that inside of us. So yeah, that was a huge, and I didn't even know I had that block, until that happened. And it was just such a joy just to feel that they have this affection for us, actually, as
Very
sharing.
important to hear that as well, isn't it? Because we carry on with our everyday lives, and somehow that mundaneness of everyday life takes over that subtle
Yeah,
reality, which is the reality. And although we might be meditating and foot soaking and shoe beating, what have you, it becomes a little bit mechanical somehow, somewhere.
yeah, yeah. I know it's. I mean, luckily, I have to really. I think one of the questions you asked before was one of the biggest, like the biggest miracle in Sahaja Yoga. And I think it was for me, it's just basically being married to a yogini wife who's just full on thinking about Shri Mataji all the day and trying to feel like when we're not sort of goofing around like children and singing or role playing, we're talking about how some vibrations change, and that must mean that. And because like all the focus is how we can get more of Shri Mataji and get closer to her. And
Yeah.
every tiny breakthrough that we get is, oh, wow, it's really exciting.
Wow. So it's really very interesting how, you came to Sahaja Yoga, then Shamaji married you, and your son Lincoln was born. You wrote stories for him, which other yogis, including ourselves, read to our children, and many more will hopefully read to theirs in the future and generations to come. And now your son is married recently, from what
Yeah, he just
I
got married. Yeah,
read.
luckily, because he didn't. I mean, as a teenager, he was sort of half in Sahaja Yoga,
Yes.
but then he moved away. For many years, he was doing university and stuff, and then he wasn't really seeing yogis that often. And I think you have the feeling with many of the yuvas, they feel this power they're born realized, and they don't have any comparison what it's like not to. And then they just, I don't know. I think the first yogis also are a bit fanatical and very careful, not to make any mistakes. So
Yes.
then they feel bogged down by this. Sometimes it's fanatical. Like one thing, our son said, we'd warn him that non-yogis can have negative vibrations, and he said he always disliked that because he felt love for everybody. And anyway, they experiment and go out, try whatever. But I think, he still has Shri Mataji, he still has respect for Shri Mataji. And so he met this girl spontaneously, and she also was like a yogini, I think, probably also born realized and
Yeah.
felt everything and wow. And So even though, they don't meditate or do any of the things that Sahaja Yogis do, the respect and that awe is sort of there at the, and then of course she feels it in us also. Like she's said again and again, she's so grateful to have parents-in-law who are, like us. She doesn't know that it's because we have this thoughts are open. It's Kundalini going.
Wow.
But yeah, that's another blessing. You just see if you hold on, and keep going, that things gradually, because that's what's happened with us is things have always improved.
Mm.
And so if we look around, I told actually a yogi recently, I said, if you want to see what your state is inside, just look around, what is happening, because most of the people in the world are just struggling and they have very difficult circumstances.
Yes.
And we, the yogis, look around and everything's quite beautiful and safe. And wow, maybe that means that inside is
Yeah.
like that. And yeah.
Amazing. That is truly incredible how the state inside is reflected outside and how Shri wants us to project and radiate that love that she has given us. Um, is there any instances, any humorous instances that you might like to share that you had with Shri?
Actually, there was a very humorous one that Brigitte shared because in '86, when her and her sister went with Shri Mataji to Munich,
Mm.
Mr. Mataji was working out this dry German side. And in the ashram there, somebody had just started an ashram and they said they were constantly laughing with Shri Mataji. Like there was them and I think two leaders, and Shri Mataji was trying to speak German. And then they were all laughing so hard. And Shivaratri was holding her stomach and said, we have to stop laughing now because my stomach is hurting too much. And actually, coincidentally, like the next day, there's another thing you mentioned about career advice because the whole time, of course, we're newlyweds and we get, oh, this is an opportunity to ask Mataji about what I
Yeah.
should do in Austria because I was just learning German. And then at the end, of course, she completely forgot about it after a couple of, programs and puja and everything. And then, so we were in this old house and we were upstairs and Shimalaji came out of the bedroom and I was at the top of the stairs and she was just passing me to step down the stairs and she turned to me and she told me everything I should do for working in Austria.
Would you like to share that, please?
Uh, yeah, basically, I mean, one of the main things that I did end up doing a lot was picture framing.
Is that what
Yes.
Shivatri said? You should
Yeah,
picture frame.
picture framing, basically woodwork, which you mentioned again to Brigitte later. She said I could do carving and things like that. And she said I could do painting, like house painting, picture painting.
Oh,
And I think there was one other thing. But so what was it, 3, 4 years later, we went to Romania for the first programs there. And like Brigitte was again attending to Shmataji in this house. Somebody's parents had a house, and I told actually when I started doing the picture frames, I think she was thinking of Antonio, who does everything from scratch.
Antonia Shiloh, yeah.
Yeah. So then I told her actually I'd buy the finished pieces and then I cut them and put them. And then she started to say, "No, you should buy the equipment and make." And then the very first Bulgarian yogis walked in to the room and she said, "Oh, the Bulgarians have come." So she didn't continue. So that was one thing that actually I should have continued that I didn't. I mean, I did do some things like from hand,
Yes.
like that, but that job in Frankfurt that I got when she told my sister-in-law we should move to Frankfurt was in the oldest picture framing shop in Frankfurt. And that was another thing I had to work out there because this guy, his family was a Nazi supporters.
Yeah.
And the whole time he was saying things. And I'd go home on the bus to the ashram and I'd be crying. My heart was hurting so much. And but yeah, and then I did a lot of paintings and things like that. And then eventually, the main thing I realized, it took me a long time because I always wanted to do music. And Shimataji never, she mentioned after another puja, Brigitte, Shimataji saw Brigitte. It was a Krishna puja in Kabbalah in the early I'd written a poem about the Kundalini, and I asked there's one actress in Vienna to read it. And then I was sitting at the back of this huge tent, where we had the first pujas. And then I think this person decided not to read it and said, "What?" And Edward should read it. And then Guido was on the microphone. Can Ed, come forward and read his poem? So I had to go through all the people while Shri Mataji sat waiting in the whole place silent. And I was really nervous, so I bowed down first, and then I went on the stage and read it. And then Shri Mataji saw Brigitte after and said, "Oh, your husband was a carpenter, now he's a poet." And then in Leningrad, that first time, there was me and another guy. The television came to film her in the afternoon, and we were also had the Sahaj camera, And she said, "No, you should go." She said, "You're artists. You should go to the museum." So I refer to these things that she called me a carpenter, a poet, and an artist. But she never referred to music, even though I was often playing the drums on the stage at public programs or
Really?
with the group. And so anyway, eventually I had this thing that I have to do something big, with my talents, because I have so many talents. And then I realized eventually that, Brigitta's coming up. She always encouraged Brigitte. And I have maybe from past lives all this experience. And I'm supposed to be helping her, because it's her time. I refer to it as the Brigitte show. It's not the Edward show. So yeah, and then an interesting thing happened inside me, because I started feeling more satisfied with myself, because I realized I don't have to strive to achieve something. And so mostly I help her, because there's a lot of work to do, with.
Of course.
She ships out all over the world, the statues and things, or even at home. Like I always cook dinner, and now I started cooking her breakfast every morning.
It's nice to hear you as sharing the household duties, shall we say, not chores, and also encouraging your wife to carry on with her artistic Saha journey, isn't it? And it's very important in these days and times for men to hear
Yeah. It
and
took me a
to
long time to
inspire.
realize, because I was always, the little boy who needed attention. And then once I got over all my traumas and everything, I realized I don't need anything,
So
Why?
when was that, and how did that come about? Was there a point where you thought, I can do that, or
The funny thing is, I don't know if you know Jana. Jana used to live in Bath. She did people's horoscopes.
yeah, I've heard of
American
it.
yogini.
Sorry, yeah,
Uh,
I've heard.
she told us, because it was way back in the 80s, she did our horoscope. And she mentioned something, because I think she was an aspiring artist, also became a teacher. And she told me, "No, what you're really good at would be art marketing." And I was traumatized. I thought, "No, what? I have to do my own art. What have I don't want to do something dry like that." So, and I just found out like last year or something that she had written that. And I thought, this is exactly what I'm finally came around to doing. I'm finally ready to read that again, because
How many years later?
uh, I think she wrote that around the time our son was born. So it would be like 33 years. And yeah, and then I was ready to accept. I mean, I still do artistic things. I create little things. I just got an iPad actually, and
Hmm.
I discovered that's a nice element, because I'm Aquarius, and I like to do sort of things with technology and
Yeah.
light, and sort of like painting with light somehow, using an
Oh,
iPad.
fantastic. Oh, that's something novel. So look forward to what you create on those ones. And hopefully at some point we will get to hear Brigitte's story from her
Yeah.
directly as well. Um, is there any gifts? Because she used to give a lot of presents, didn't she? Did she give you anything that you must treasure?
Actually, at some point, like people have these things in boxes somewhere, and finally, we have a tiny meditation room here. Actually, our house, you could call it also a present, because some old lady, a friend of Brigitte's grandmother, died in 2003, and And we found out the year I came to Sahaja Yoga, 82, she had put Brigitte as her sole inheritor into her will. So
Wow.
already from 82, I guess Shri Mataji knew this the whole time, because we used to move to ashrams in other countries, and that someday this old lady would die and we'd have our own house with a big property. So this actually used to be part of the outside porch, and then I closed it at some point. So I have this beautiful little, like a jewel box of a meditation room. And then I added some glass door cupboards with lights inside for all the precious things. So basically we have these two cupboards, like 4 doors that open, that have all the, yeah, like our wedding things that she gave us. And, you know, over the years in Cabela also, she would give out presents, all the young men, you know. And that time in shooting camps, when she gave us the 50 oil paintings, there was all these yogis helping pack her things to send to Pratishthan. I remember Brigitte and I were standing downstairs with somebody, and a yogini came down and said, "You're also supposed to come out. She's giving presents to all the boys." I said, "No, we were just visiting. We didn't do anything, you know." And then we went up, and by the time I went up, Brigitte was kneeling in front of Mataji. And I just sat at the stairs. I don't know if you know, in shooting camps, the stairs go up, and then there's this landing. We were all sitting there. So I just sat on the top step in the back. And then this is the first time I ever heard Shri Mataji say my name. And she said it in a penetrating way that I felt after it went right through my left Vishuddhi. She put her head up like this and said, "Edward?" I said, "Yes, Shri Mataji." And instead of saying, no, I didn't do any work, and I went forward, and she was giving out these watches. And so
When was this? In
that was,
Vienna?
no, that was in shooting camps when we went and got these oil paintings
Ah,
in November 89. So it was, you know, double blessing somehow.
yes.
We had already had enough. Oh yeah, and at that time in the Frankfurt ashram, I had painted a silk painting pillow.
Ah,
And unfortunately, the leader took a picture and then he lost it later. I remember it was because I heard Sri Mataji liked ochre, like in the autumn, she liked the ochre color. I made the Ganesha ochre, and in the background I did dark blue.
ah,
And when I offered it, she said, "Good idea putting blue around Ganesha. I think it represents like his mother, the Mahakali." And then, unimaginable, she says, "You know, I have so many presents, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna have to carry it on my head." And she put it on her sahasrara. I was like, God. She put it on her sahasrara. And then, I don't know, over the years, but nothing really compares to, you know, this, of course, the self-realization and the thoughtless awareness, because all those years in Sahaja Yoga, I could barely, I don't even know how I survived in the beginning, because I don't think I really meditated. I think my heart was enough. There was enough light there that you know, this is it. You know? And I would sit to meditate, and like I said, I would daydream. And I would always feel guilty about it because I couldn't never stop my thinking. It would just roll. And now, especially after these things, these hardships I went through, I eventually, oh yeah, because from the childhood, I had so much tension in my body that I couldn't even, you know, the yoga is the union where you go into your instrument and you experience the union. So I could never go into my body because it had so many horrors locked inside of it. So through this whole thing with getting sick and everything, I started recognizing it and being able to release it. And I remember at some point I felt it's so beautiful inside. It's so big and so beautiful and quiet. It's like, and so now at this point, just to, you know, the present given to us that you could actually just stop anytime and be thoughtless, it was unimaginable for me. And to be able to go into Sahasrara, and I notice it in public that people, when I do that, like if I'm in a queue at a cashier or something, people look in my face because and I try to imagine what they feel, and I think their nervous system suddenly goes into a wave of peace or something, and they feel where it's coming from, and they look into my eyes just automatically, you know.
yes.
It's an automatic reaction. So I mean, that is, for me, the greatest present that, even though I was sort of like a hopeless case in a situation where there was hardly any, opportunity to become a yogi. She just sort of plucked me out somehow and put me there. And, knowing all the things I have to go through. And then afterwards, actually my first time meeting Shri Mataji, I was so possessed from the transcendental meditation and 10 years of drugs, I was just shaking and I was just in terror. Like I couldn't go in front of her. And now when I read all the memory books, every time they're saying in the 80s, Shri Mataji, the yogis would all come forward and bow, at the end of the program. And she'd work on each one, and also like the new people. And I had one opportunity like that when I first went to Delhi. The first program of the series of programs, it was in a hall, and there was just the yogi, the Westerners, and I saw them down there going, somebody said, you can go there. And I couldn't, I was, basically so possessed. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, coming from all that, and then finally, after decades, just being in a state where I can just basically be with Shri Mataji whenever I want somehow, um, is, beyond all these little trinkets, that we collected over the years from her.
Amazing.
Um,
Incredible, incredible. Now, were you involved in somehow doing the first public meetings in places with Shri? And so from that experience, would you have any advice for people now and in time to come?
um, my only experience is really organizing, and in both situations, I was luckily just the helper because I would have had no idea what to do. Was,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, in Finland and Turkey at the very
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah, Finland was a year before Shri Mataji even came there.
Mm-hmm.
We had the new people coming in both situations, there was a flat, and the new people would come every day. We teach them bhajans. Terry, he, Gunagatte, hey. It was, I think, the only bhajan we knew.
Oh,
That in Finland and Istanbul, they would learn. But yeah, I had to learn a lot also because in both situations, I was with a very competent yogi who good at organizing things and very different atmospheres because Finland was a Nordic country,
mm.
a certain kind of people, and then Turkey was Islamic, and luckily Akbar was there and he knew how to talk to everybody and organize. There was one yogini. Unfortunately, none of those people stuck on. There was a executive secretary who was like the first full-on yogini, and she was organizing everything. Akbar would say, print up, so many copies of this, and she would do it.
Wow.
And and then, but yeah, then we traveled, to in various countries, Mataji's programs, and we would see all the things that she did. In Canada, I was there too shortly. She was only there the one time while I was in Sahaja Yoga, and I mean, I got to drive her. That was great.
Wow,
Actually,
what was that like?
I had a crazy experience. Uh, it's a bit embarrassing to tell it, but so Vancouver is a very beautiful city, and they got this new. They made right in the middle of the city a park with 3 levels going down with community rooms, that you could rent. And when Shri Mataji did the program there, she said it's good to do under the earth, the public program, because says vibrations everywhere. So anyway, they had rented a Lincoln Continental. Shri Mataji stayed in our ashram where we were living in a very
When is
beautiful.
this?
That was September, October '83.
Okay.
And so we came back from India, and then I had the idea, let's get an ashram up in the most beautiful part of Vancouver, which is across the water on the mountainside with a view of the ocean. I don't know what I suddenly had this before we went to India. I had this inspiration, and we actually ended up getting a place. And Shri actually ended up coming there. In fact, my father came to the public program.
Oh.
My mom came to the ashram, when we were all sitting in the living room on the floor and just talking to the leaders. I can't even imagine it now, but and then Shri at some point looked at her, looked at me, looked at her, looked at me, and must have seen our whole past
Mm,
incarnations and everything that we had gone
yes.
through. Anyway, I think me and another boy took turns driving the Lincoln with Shri Mataji in it. One was a television interview, and we left the ashram, and the world leader said, when Shri Mataji's in a hurry, it's okay to speed, in the car. So we were entering the freeway, and I put my foot down on the gas. And
No speed cameras then.
no, not then. Yeah, and that yeah, because we were running a bit late for the
Yeah.
interview. But the public program, one evening was the other boy, and the other evening was me, and friends of mine had come, and my dad and everything, and it was so exciting. And she was spending a long time inside, going through the audience like she used to do, working on people. And I was outside talking to some friends, and then she came out and she actually talked to the little girl, the born realized girl of my friend. And then she passed with the leaders and went to the lift.
Mhm.
And then somebody came up and said, Ed, aren't you supposed to be driving, Shivaji? Oh my God. And I ran up the three flights of stairs, and the car was luckily not too far away, but it was on a one-way road. So I came out of this parking lot and reversed it going up this road where Shivaji was already standing on the sidewalk in the middle of the city. And then the leader told me afterwards that Shivaji said, oh, look, he's coming backwards up the road. And then there was another weird situation because, and Shri Mataji mentioned this in the next cassette we got from London. She mentioned the situation in Vancouver, where I only found out later because I was just the innocent driver, and some conversation was going on with the leaders in Shri Mataji. And she invited everyone from the program to come to the ashram for Navaratri Puja, and she would cook for everybody, all the new people. And actually 50 people ended up coming.
Which year is it, please?
This was the first day of Navaratri in October 1983.
1983, okay.
So yeah, 50 people came and experienced puja, which she did with her hands, and they ate all the food that she cooked all night. But we're coming back at 11 o'clock at night from the program to the ashram, and some conversation was going on. And then suddenly one of the leaders says, Ed, turn the car around. We have to go to India Town to buy some food. Shri Mataji wants to cook. So I turned the car around, and we went there, and it was almost midnight. And the world leader and our leader went into a restaurant. And it turned out the guy had much of the ingredients, and he woke up his friend across the street who lived above his shop, and he got all the rest of the ingredients there.
Wow.
And
Middle of the night.
and then all this, and then she stayed up till 6 in the morning, I think, cooking for all the new people in the ashram. And
Shri Mataji cooked from midnight to 6 after you got the ingredients, waking up the shopkeeper who
yeah.
let you come to the shop. I mean, that's so extraordinary.
At
Yeah.
the time, I didn't really know what was going on. And then I was left in the car with her alone, and oh yeah, and in Vancouver, she'd always ride in the front seat. They say riding shotgun, maybe because she loved to look at everything.
Yeah.
So I was sitting beside her, and I said, oh, thank you for the beautiful program, Shri Mataji. And then she took my hand, and I think I squeezed her hand. I was so nervous. And then I couldn't think of anything to say. I was just sitting there. And then she said, maybe you go in and see what they're doing. So I show up in the restaurant. They say, what are you doing? You left Shri Mataji in the car. I said, she told me to come in and see what you're doing. It was really hard for me because I was so shy, I couldn't. But yeah, then a month later, the cassettes were always coming from England. I don't know what event it was. And Shri Mataji said, sometimes the yogis don't listen to me. She said, like in Vancouver last time. We were driving in the car, and I gave instructions, and they said, no, no, not possible, Shri Mataji, it's too late. And then she said, I felt like taking out a pistol and saying, now stick him up, let's go. I want to get these ingredients. And I had no idea at the time that it was happening. I only realized it a few weeks later when the cassette came from London.
Oh my God. Amazing, Shri Mataji. Talking like that.
And
Oh,
I had a miracle experience then. I mean, I was being late picking her up, but I went back after 7 years after I got married, and I was basically a new person. 7 years is a period of renewal. And I went back because she was having a public program. And it was in the same hall, basically, all those years later.
When was
Actually,
that?
it was 10 years later. It was 93.
93 then. Okay.
Because
October
that
93.
one program I had attended, was 83, and then I came back in 93. And then actually I was taking a lot of photos. There was all the local yogis gathered around her after everybody left. And so a few of us were just standing outside the door, and she was coming with the leaders out.
Mhm.
And then she stopped and she saw me and she said, "Oh, you came." And everybody looked at me. And then she was walking to the lift and she said to somebody, "He's Canadian." And somehow for me, that was like recognition that I was one of the first. Because my first job I got when I got my realization was walking the streets of the city writing parking tickets. So
Okay.
I was like a vacuum cleaner every day, sucking and then doing my foot soak. And part of that period was when I was completely on my own, when I was told I was to leave Sahaja Yoga and just, be on my own. So I was basically one of these, I guess, stones, Shri Mataji said, these foundation stones that gets buried in the beginning, they just are there somewhere under the foundation. So that was my big moment of recognition in which he's
Wow.
Canadian. And then the tour continued. So I saw her at the airport and she said, "Are you coming to LA?" And I said, "Yes, Shri Mataji." She said, "Oh, good." And so that was sort of a repeat of my first California experience when I got to wash her feet. And yeah, so that was basically, but we were at public programs all over the world, like India and Turkey, Russia, we were the first programs. There was also a funny thing there. My wife just got this brand new car for her graduation. We went everywhere with it, even drove all the way to Moscow. And in Helsinki, in Finland, they didn't have any, because it was just 1 year after we had started Sahaja Yoga there. There was no car. So the world leader said, "Go use your car." Yes, of course. Mataji was in our car. And then in Moscow, the program was in a stadium. And then you can imagine everybody's, filters out except for a few. And then she comes out to the parking lot and the car that they had hired that brought her there just didn't show up. So I was just coming out of the stadium and the leader shouted out, "Ed, bring your car." And I have the feeling like Sri Hanuman was carrying me. I ran around the stadium, jumped in the car.
Wow.
I had to bring the car to Sri Mataji. And I just parked it and left the doors open and they all got in and took the car. But yeah, and in many programs like in Czechoslovakia or Istanbul, I was with musicians on the stage playing my drums.
Mhm.
And even at the one program in Vienna was at the palace, the royal palace,
Mhm.
a huge, beautiful hall, very ornate with gold everywhere. And the Nirmal Sangeet Sarita was there then. So
Uh-huh.
they're playing on the stage, full on Sri Mataji.
Yeah.
Well, she's working on the people, and I got to play my drums sitting behind them, and then and then I forget his name, the one drummer, the tabla player. He kept looking at me because then we were sort of dueling with each other.
Oh,
And so yeah, there was all these. I can't even remember all the various programs and participation.
amazing. Amazing. So over these course of these months and years and decades, um, would you like to share one of the deepest wisdoms that you have gained and insights that you think could benefit the listeners and the viewers?
I think the biggest thing for me was this principle of the big story that's going on continually.
Mm.
And then that made me feel, every little tiny thing we do is appreciated by God. Especially if we, I mean, because we love Shri. There's one leader, the Austrian leader, once we were walking in the woods, and he said, this bond of love, he said, it's basically unbreakable. You can't, you don't have to worry about anything. It's so mutual and you can't really get out of it. So whatever our destiny is, it's like a permanent thing that we're fixed with her. Luckily, somehow we made the right choices in past lives.
Yeah.
But the feeling that it's all a story and that it's, um, going on every moment. It's being composed, the whole thing, spontaneously, whatever choices we make. And there's a basic principle in psychology that, sorry, that people that have childhood trauma tend either to move towards dissatisfaction and anger, or towards love, which is healing, obviously. So the people that move towards love tend to, because your Mataji said it's like an ellipse, also it goes and comes back, whatever you're sending out. So I think that's a mistake a lot of yogis make when something in their mind tells them that they're justified in these other ones, and they go off on their own. C.S. Lewis actually wrote in The Great Divorce, he described Napoleon, who kept moving further away. And at some point he was 10,000 years away. You could never, and just that concept, he was very intuitive, and just the concept of moving away from the Sangha, and getting further away from it. Oh my God, I couldn't imagine that. So I think just the feeling that if you can get that deep satisfaction inside you, that you're all right, you're not guilty, and there's nobody to not forgive. Many people did things to me in Sahaja Yoga, and I think going back to the question about the greatest present Shri Mataji gave me, I think would be optimism and a sense of humor, because I think without that, it's really tough to get through, because you always come into the judgmental thing.
Yeah.
We get stuck into it, and then it's really, really hard to get out. You're judging yourself or others, or a combination. So yeah, I think that's the main thing that helped me. And every day I just remember that, and also that the Maya is so thick on purpose that literally we have no idea what's going on. Like 99.99% of everything that's happening in life is invisible. We can't even see it, and we just. But the whole aim of the whole thing is that we sort of fumble along and stick to it.
Yeah.
Like, just even when everything was really thick and you just can't feel anything, you just know, it's one of these periods.
It'll pass.
Yeah, exactly.
There were some photos that you wanted to share with us.
There was a couple more, yeah.
Yeah, would you please?
Let's see. Oh, wait. I forgot how to turn. There's the share, yeah. Oh, no, I know, yeah.
So at the bottom, there's the share.
Yeah. First, I go back here. Share. Okay. And we go over here. And sorry.
That's all right.
Can you see the picture, or it's not turned on yet?
I think it needs to come up. If you could, yeah, no, that's fine. I can.
Here, stop sharing. You are sharing your screen.
So tell us please where this is and when.
So this one is in Vienna. There was one time Shri Mataji came and she just, sorry. She just was stopped at the airport. She didn't do any program or anything. So this is when we had a newborn baby. Actually, we brought our baby he was about 8 weeks old. We brought him to the Shivatri Puja in Kabela in the blue circus tent. And
Wow.
Mataji, afterwards, she was giving names to babies, and we told her that we named him Lincoln. She said, "Oh, what a beautiful name. You should keep it." And he was just tiny. We were sleeping. Brigitte slept under a kitchen table in some rented flat where it was packed with yogis because it was cold at that time of year. And so, yeah, this must have been just before that Navaratri, just a couple of weeks before.
So this is 93.
91.
91, sorry.
Yeah, autumn 91, yeah.
Autumn 91. Okay, thanks.
This looks like, oh yeah, also the Vienna airport. This would have been a few years before, judging by the young faces.
Yeah.
Brigitte's there on the right side.
Oh, yes. Yes, you can see this is Brigade.
Yeah.
Lovely.
That just happens to be the airport also in Vienna.
It's a very beautiful sari Shri Mataji is wearing there, isn't it? It's different from your
Oh, yeah.
normal.
It's like a painted, like watercolor
Yeah,
paint.
yeah. Beautiful colors.
Here's the Navaratri,
Ah,
our little baby being held by Shri Mataji.
so nice, Mamma Mia.
I think he got so filled with vibrations, and that's
Yeah,
Brigitte in front.
yes.
Um, there was another boy actually that was also born a few days apart, and he's living in Vancouver also now, and
Uh-huh.
they're arriving for a visit in a couple of days. So, but they grew up in ISPS. Our son actually went to. He still has lifelong friends from the Rome ashram. He went
Oh,
there
wow.
3 years from the age of 3, and then he
Yeah.
went straight to Dharamshala for 7 years.
Amazing.
So he's got all these old friends.
Of course, yes. And they're deep bonds. They're beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And
What a blessing to be held by the
I
Adishakti.
know. You can imagine. Must have also had punyas from some past life.
Absolutely, no doubt.
This is in Istanbul.
Ah,
I'm not sure what year that would have been.
mhm.
Um, she was also helping Shri Mataji.
Beautiful.
And that's in Cabela. That's in the 2000s, I think, probably.
Mm. Yes, from the throne, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This in the hangar. I think it's a
Beautiful.
hangar. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's hard to believe all these. Oh, this was also, I think, in Cabela.
Mm.
Oh, no, no. This is, I have no idea. Oh,
Amazing.
wait. The date is 21. Oh, this could be Easter in Turkey, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's only the few that I found quickly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing these absolutely amazing photographs and the wonderful times with
Yeah.
Shri Mataji. It's yes, and the story continues.
Mataji said once, well, I think it was in a dream to somebody after she passed away. She said, "Don't worry, I think I'm going to have to incarnate again because there's so much love. I have to come back."
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And also, as you were saying in the interview, when Shri said how Sri Sudashiva is pleased with the creation now and it
Mm.
will be destroyed, and with the world affairs and everything else that's going on in the world, we were kind of going through a bit of, mental um,
Yeah.
discussion and debates. And then we listened to a talk in our meditation time, and Shmachi was saying, um, do you think she said that she was going to let his creation be destroyed by these human beings?
Yeah.
Like such a relief, that there she is, protecting us and holding us and guiding us in every way, isn't
I
it?
think we're lucky this time because this talk I was just studying basically about creation. She said that she made so many creations. Some of them still exist and some of them,
Yeah.
and it sort of makes you feel a bit small, but somehow I guess we did something right this time because somehow the Parent Chaitanya grew and the self-realization spread and she had so many, children loving her and
Yeah, and sharing
even
that love.
yeah, and even to, please her Lord that she did a good job, and that somehow we managed to make the right choices.
Yes. And long it may be.
Yeah. But I have the feeling that all this will happen, like within our lifetimes because things are speeding up and
Yeah.
basically Sri Mataji, I mean, in a way, it's funny to say it like that, but it was a pre-incarnation for the last incarnation of Sri Vishnu. And that,
Mhm.
and I was just reading in this talk, there's so many things she said in it that, literally, if there's a literal weight, when the karmas become too much, the sins, there's a weight
Yes.
on the earth. And the
Yes.
mother and that Sri Vishnu comes not just to correct dharma and all this, but he comes to relieve this weight of the sins from the mother earth, basically.
Mm.
And so I have the feeling that in a way that's piling up, and yeah, something will happen. I'm looking forward, hopefully in this life, to see the end of all evil, because
Yeah.
I like to still be fit to be able to, it'll basically, I guess, part of Krita Yoga is the fixer-upper part, where you have to, beautify everything again. And, I'd like to be involved in that, not just, oh, now I missed that part.
Could you please email us this talk that you've been studying so we can provide
Yeah,
that link with your interview, because I'm sure it'll be of immense importance. And
that's from the late 70s. It's on Amruta, so I can send
it
you the.
is on Amrita. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, but I can't remember the exact year. So it
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
helpful. I'll just provide the link if
yeah. That
that's
would be
like,
nice.
uh,
Everybody can
thank
study
you
it.
so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today for
Thank
this
you.
session of Golden Memories and Unparalleled Times with Shri Mataji. And thank you, Shri Mataji, for making all this happen and for having us as your children. Jai Shri Mataji again and again.
And I hope we all remember that she's like so intimately, she's in our spine, watching, recording every lifetime. So she's
Absolutely.
so intimately alert and aware of everything that we're going through and helping. Not
Yeah.
only just aware of it, but doing every single thing possible to.
Yeah.
And she's all around us, and she's in each other. And I mean, basically, it's mind-boggling to.
Isn't it? Isn't it? We can't really appreciate it with that limited human
Yeah,
brain.
in the thick Maya.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, well, our love and regards to appreciate, and thank you so much, Edward. Thank you for joining us. Jai
Thank
Shri
you.
Mataji.
Jai Shri Mataji.